you who have been following my videos will know that I'm using YouTube as a medium to answer the often asked question as to my background, usually in more particular my accent. But it doesn't really matter if you're diving in now at this point, because each video is a standalone one. For this particular episode, I'm going to talk a bit about, start talking a bit about my family. My mother's father, my grandfather, was a tailor's cutter. His wife, my grandmother, was a seamstress. And my mother, as a hobby, also did an awful lot of sewing, sometimes completely making her own clothing from scratch, other times modifying store-bought clothing. For 5 years in my teens, along with my parents, I lived in a textile town in the north of England. It was a town that had been founded on silk. So by the time we got there, the silk trade was on the decline. And it was basically around cotton and other man-made fabrics. I also worked for a few years for a company that made a thread known as crimpolene, very much in vogue in the later 60s and 70s. So although not making me a complete expert in textiles, nevertheless, with this sort of background, coupled with the trade shows in town, it did teach me a lot about the quality of fabric and the quality of how the fabrics are stitched together into clothing. Just for my own purposes initially, of course, it came great value for when I was shopping, to see that I was getting value for money. Because as some of you perhaps know, just because something is cheap doesn't always mean that it's good. But there's companies that try and play on that, because during the time I worked in a shopping mall, I could see the outrageous prices that were being charged for clothing in the stores in the mall. So we fast forward to today, when I'm working in the warehouse that, amongst other things, supplies $10 mall. Gives me a first-hand chance to see the clothing and a chance to examine them, and quite frankly I am amazed, because as I said, I've seen how much some of this clothing can go for in retail establishments. I don't know if it's because they make outrageous profits or the rents in a shopping mall are high, but either way, to the consumer, it doesn't really matter that they're paying $10 and less, because it's your pocket that's concerned. You're the one who wants to save money. Of course, it gives you the chance to give the impression to your friends that you're wearing an item that could have cost you $200, when in reality you've got that little secret, at least yourself. Of course, sometimes people aren't so good at keeping secrets, and they tell their friends and they get them in on the act as well. And that's generally what I recommend to everyone. Why not have a lot of good quality clothing that only costs you a small amount of money? As with everything, I say, don't just take my word for it. Log on to $10mold.com. Check out the wonderful selection, order it, and you'll see for yourself. Great styling, high quality fabric, put together with high quality stitching. It might last you longer than you want from a fashion point of view, but it also means you can be generous and give it away to your friends afterwards.